Hey guys, and welcome to the Working Money Channel. US banks are increasingly closing customers' accounts and freezing withdrawals without warning. And yeah, guys, this is happening in the United States. This one courtesy of Michael Branch. US banks are increasingly closing their customers' accounts, freezing withdrawals. Does this have to do with a lack of cash? A growing number of people say they're abruptly losing access to both their checking and savings accounts. This is reported by CBS Los Angeles. The report cites the sudden closure of Elad Nahore, who received an ominous alert while logging into his Bank of America account. Here's what it said here. Here's what he said. Bank of America told me it was shut down. They refused to give me an explanation. They told me I would get my money after it was resolved. Apparently there was, some kind of an issue here. All of a sudden, I find out I'm broke. I can't feed my family. I can't pay any expenses. So banks typically shut down accounts over concerns of suspicious behavior, but according to the Banking Policy Institute, only 4% of suspicious activity reports submitted by banks to law enforcement result in a follow-up, and a small fraction of the follow-ups result in arrests and convictions. Now, guys, I have heard in the past that, suspicious activity could in fact fall under the umbrella of large unexpected transactions going into your account, i.e., if you made $589 million in this crypto bull run and you deposit that into your bank account, well, your bank account could get frozen. And so, I've talked on this channel in the past about certain methods that I'm going to be using myself once I have cashed out of my positions. And, somebody told me this a while ago. When you talk to your cryptocurrency exchange and associate a bank account with that crypto exchange, open up a new bank account, something that you have not used before. And if you already have 2 or more checking accounts, use the one where most of your bills don't come out of, because let's say, you deposit your money, your bank flags your account because of suspicious activity, and then all your bills are also getting affected by that. So, use a separate account. That's just one way to, prevent this kind of thing. Of course, banks are getting leery of people like you and I. The FUD in the crypto space is continuing too, guys. I've got Bitcoin up here on the 1 hour. We can see Bitcoin has come down a little bit, 29,900, so under that psychological level of $30,000 per coin. XRP trading a little bit lower. But the good news for XRP, guys, we're still staying in that sideways channel that I was discussing over the last week or so. XRP right now trading at 74.2. So, for XRP, we still need to break above resistance, but, I'm of the opinion that it's going to take maybe a little more, maybe an overall bullish push to get above that top that we saw for XRP back when, the rally first started, that 94 cents, almost 95 cents per coin. Notice too, guys, 72, the lower end here, bounced off over here July 17th. And then again, just yesterday, July the 22nd, we saw another bounce off that bottom. So it looks like we are holding, at least for now. Some are suggesting we're hearing of this FUD because of bigger implications. Now that we have the Ripple SEC verdict, this certainly does mean a lot for the crypto ecosystem in the US. And you know what? Honestly, banks just may not be ready yet. You can see, I'm just going to throw Bitcoin here on the daily. You guys can see the overall trend is still looking fairly good. So we're not getting so much FUD that it's bringing the market down too much. Cypress Demand and Core here, though, bringing this up. I thought this was interesting. Now, this is Metaco Talks. We know Ripple just recently purchased Metaco. Boom. Listen close. Okay, banks still see meaning in the technology. They are using this crypto winter to stall. Ripple acquired Metaco and they spill the beans. We've always said the private sector caught the banks off guard. Now they are playing catch up. Listen to the description of what these guys here over there at Metaco are saying when it comes to banks, the banking sector, the technology, and the time we're in right now. Okay, guys, listen to this.
So, but the U.S., what is the situation in the U.S.? Is there lack of clarity and the concern about the asset class? Has it changed the way banks are looking at investing in this space, or how are their plans in the face of this ambiguity and basically the increasing regulatory concern?
You've seen some bank CEOs, some large bank CEOs very publicly say, we still believe the technology is really going to provide meaningful benefits. I mean, there's been a debate, there's been some papers and things debating what's truly the utility. Right. I think you would probably agree with this, is that digital assets and distributed ledger technology are really good at things. It's not everything. There are other technologies that, if you look at an end-to-end process, that you would deploy, but there are real benefits in reducing and trusting information. So reducing the number of people that have to validate information, digitizing assets that don't have a lot of liquidity. There's a lot of real utility. And I think you've seen some people in large banks say, yeah, here's the use cases, here's the benefits, here's why we still believe in it. So I think for those institutions, regardless of it's not necessarily maybe the best regulatory climate, maybe they view it as an opportunity as well, because they can actually catch up to maybe non-banks for a little bit ahead of them in development. But maybe a trusted pair of hands is what's needed also.
So did you hear that last sentence there? Maybe they're using that time to be able to catch up, considering, a lot of these banks are just not up to speed with what the technology is. Now, that would make sense along the lines of the ETHgate, theory, right? The SEC, stalling Ripple adoption so that their guys at JP Morgan and whoever else can get up to speed. Well, Metaco is also spelling this out. So an interesting clip here. Wanted to thank Cypress Demanencore here on Twitter for posting that. And, because the trend has quote unquote stalled, of course, now we're getting FUD coming out. Well, FUD or not so hot news, I guess, from Mac Attack XRP. XRP is sluggish, unraveling the factors behind its gradual weakening. So, we're going to start seeing these types of articles now coming out. The XRP community is struggling with a significant rise in profit booking actions due to repeated attempts at smashing through the unbreakable 85-cent barrier. Now, again, guys, like I said, there's nothing to be worried about here. We've got XRP, and it's looking still very, very positive. Okay, we're not making newer lows. We're maintaining support, at least right now. And, we've seen these trends in the past where XRP shoots up, it hits a new high, and then we just kind of do this for a while before, it takes off again. And for those of you who may not have been here for long, maybe you are anxiously awaiting the answer for the crucial question: will the bullish forces muster enough strength to defend the critical 70-cent support level? Investors are patiently waiting for a definitive response, so they're making this sound very, very dramatic. At the end of the day, I think it's going to be another bullish push, from Bitcoin. If we get some bullish news, something is going to raise that price even further. Or maybe we'll just see buyers and sellers get sick of these prices and, buyers will decide that they've had enough, realize that maybe this is the bottom and start gobbling up XRP at a new low of about 72, 73, 74 cents. And that could, in fact, push it to new highs. So, when we see these types of articles, again, not technically FUD, but I guess maybe we could say a bit of a fuddy spin on it. Anyway, I'll link it in the description if you guys are interested. But really, when you're looking at the price, it's a wait and see game at this moment in time. Crypto Eddie also mentioning this. Okay, funny considering the lengths they've gone to fact check this. From Kieran Lawler here, NAB leverages Ripple's XRP for payments, and they even go out to say, this is from Daily Coin. They even go out to say fact checked here. And, we were talking about this the other day. There was no evidence that NAB was leveraging XRP for payments. And, sure enough, today we're coming here. It's a 404 page, so the page no longer exists. And, she can't help it but laugh at this because, fact checked, what really is fact checking? I mean, these days, in a world of misinformation and, being censored by social media platforms for any number of reasons, it's really kind of hard to believe anything is what it seems. So, you really kind of have to do your own digging, do your own research. This is why, partially why I do the channel too, and partially why, I highlight things on this channel that, may be fake news, but we, we go down, we talk about it, we address it, we think about it, we talk about it, and, we don't just come to a conclusion immediately just because we read something. That was, that's the purpose, at least the purpose of my XRP channel anyway. Thought I'd bring that to you guys because, we always have to be vigilant. Moving along, another one here from Mac Attack XRP. The US SEC hints at an appeal in the Ripple lawsuit. And so, we were talking about this a little bit the other day. The potential setback for the XRP community may be on the horizon if the SEC decides to appeal, and they were talking about appealing. The federal regulatory body has said that it intends to review the judgment since it was a wrongful decision, as they say. Intriguingly, it suggested that the SEC staff was contemplating other avenues for reviewing the judgment, and we talked about that in relation to the Do Kwon Terra Luna charges because they're using Judge Torres's verdict there in their case. Now, we got a lot of backlash from this the other day, and even, creeping into today, John Deaton here posting this. An appeal is not even close to being a setback. So, we were wondering about that. Is this going to be a setback? How worried should we really be, if at all? And John Deaton is saying, similar to what I was thinking, it's not a setback. And here's why, okay, guys. First, it will be 2 years from now before a decision is issued by the Second Circuit if it is appealed. The Judge Torres decision is the law until then. So, even if it is appealed, and even if they win, I mean, that's so far off in the future. We are going to see a bull run before then, but even the chances of the SEC winning at that point are very slim. So the Judge Torres decision is law until then, at least until the Second Circuit. He says, secondly, even if the Second Circuit said Torres was wrong regarding her application of the third Howey factor, which I predict they won't, that doesn't mean the SEC wins on programmatic sales, which means sales on exchanges. So that would not affect XRP holders, retail purchasers of XRP in the United States. All that happens is that Torres then applies the other two factors that could likely still rule the exact same way, concluding the SEC didn't satisfy the common enterprise factor, which is a more difficult factor to meet, in my opinion, than the third factor. Don't let anyone underestimate how significant this win was for XRP holders, and Ripple. Brad Garlinghouse even came out, publicly said this the other day, retweeted out by Real XRP Boy. An important topic has come up about protecting retail. The SEC created this mess by proclaiming it was the cop on the crypto beat, and it had no legal jurisdiction. And so where has that gotten us? Consumers left holding the bag in bankruptcy court while the SEC holds press conferences. And Real XRP Boy here, just mentioning FTX, Luna, Celsius, the list goes on. The SEC has failed as the cop on the beat to protect investors. Let's not forget all those other cases that are going on that, where they have failed because they're so hell-bent on, protecting their best interests. I mean, I think is the best way to put it. Jerry Britto and Peter Van Valkenburg also came out discussing the Ripple ruling. A bit of an interesting take. Wheezy at Nerd Nation Unboxed posted this. Listen to this.
I think it's, and we'll get to this in a little bit, but I think it's unfortunate that the judge here chose the specific labels of institutional purchases and programmatic purchases, or institutional sales and programmatic sales, to refer to these two categories. She could have picked any label in the world.
Yeah.
But she chose those two labels, and I think that has caused some confusion because people think, well, it's about who you are, what your position is in the world. Oh, so if I'm an institutional buyer, then I have certain protections from the SEC. But if I'm a mere retail buyer, like a mom and pop, then I don't have these protections.
Sounds like a classic inversion of the public policy rationale for securities law, which is to protect mom and pop and say that the hedge fund can go do what it wants because it's a sophisticated investor.
Yeah.
Money on its own.
What is this SDNY judge thinking, right? Yeah. Like, of course, she understands what the public policy of the securities laws are.
And no such inversion exists here because it's not about the buyer. It's not about being an institutional buyer versus being just a buyer on an exchange through the quote unquote programmatic sales. It's about the intent of the seller and what they put the buyer on notice of by their manner of sale. We can't go into the world and know what's in the head of everybody who buys corn at the grocery store. We can know that sometimes somebody stands in front of the grocery store and says, yeah, you could buy corn in there, or you could come over here and look, I've got this cornfield. I'll give you a huge discount on the future of all this corn. You're going to pay me up front. Like, then it starts to become a securities offering because now I've got all these additional promises about what I'm going to do with my cornfield. It's about what that person puts into the mind of the buyer. And so, not to take Judge Torres's choice. It's just her choice of word. We agree with the holding, but the labels are confusing because it really should have been about manner of sale to institutional buyers. It really should have been about an investment contract, a commodity plus other promises, versus manner of sale to the programmatic buyers, which is just selling a commodity with no other warranties to those buyers. In fact, not even knowledge of who those buyers might be, in which case we can't say that you're putting those people on notice of your efforts.
An interesting take here. I mean, some of the lawyers in the XRP community might not agree. Sorry, but this slight criticism of the judge selecting the words is completely misplaced, says John Deaton here. Read the complaint filed by the SEC in the motion for summary judgment. The SEC called the sales institutional sales, programmatic market sales, and other distributions. So she was very specific about that, and didn't just give those those two labels that Jerry Britto and Peter Van Valkenburg said in that little clip. The judge accordingly used the precise language chosen by the SEC to prosecute the case. So she was very careful, as noticed by John Deaton here. What do you guys think? Do you agree that, maybe the labels were a little confusing? I know, sometimes when we're not legal people, right? So, I mean, some of us are, I guess, but by and large, the XRP community is not full of lawyers. And so, understanding these terms may have been a little difficult at first, and even I'm trying to get my head wrapped around them so I can bring them to you guys. But I think John Deaton sums it up really well here. Mark Cuban has even made comments on the Ripple SEC case. Actually, he made a comment when we first got the news. I thought this was interesting. Pompous Maxi here saying, I get that XRP and Ripple became impossible to ignore post-summary judgment, but my question is, why have people like Mark Cuban ignored anything related to them, including the case, up until now? Interesting observation here. You've mentioned, analyzed, or promoted every top 10 coin and beyond at least once, except for XRP, for years. So a very, very interesting observation here. The fact that, the big players have not talked about XRP. And, some in the XRP community are thinking that maybe it's because they want to keep that their best kept secret until they can release the hound, so to speak, or, let the floodgates open. Mark Cuban hasn't talked about XRP, but, he has been affiliated with VC firms that have funded or helped funded XRP near the beginning. Essentially, here's what he said, okay? So Pompous Maxi posting this, okay, from Mark Cuban, some thoughts on the XRP ruling, an opinion piece from Matt Levine. So I brought up the tweet here. Matt Levine posting this, if this newsletter becomes the backbone of global value transfer, I expect the demand for money stuff to be considerable. And, his article from Bloomberg was essentially Ripple is a security and it isn't. First of all, not calling it XRP, but calling it Ripple. I see a problem with that. Mark Cuban responded to this, and I'm not going to go over this, but I will link this in the description of the video for you guys. I'll link the tweet and you can find the article from there. Mark Cuban says, some thoughts on your piece. People, okay, people in quotes, don't buy Meta stock on the open market. So talking about Facebook. Almost all trading is quantitative, then funds. Individuals make up a small portion of exchange-traded stocks, maybe meme stocks now skew that. On the flip side, though, almost all programmatic trading on crypto is on DeFi now and is driven by individuals using smart contracts. He says, number 2, a big part of the lesson for the SEC is to make bright line rules, okay? That is the big thing, and that has been, the thing that we've been talking about for a while now. What is a bright line rule? Just to give you guys a sense, a bright line rule is a clear, defined rule or standard composed of objective factors, which leaves little or no room for varying interpretation. So basically saying, the rules have to be crystal clear. The purpose of a bright line rule is to produce predictable and consistent results in its application. And I would hope that by now the SEC would have learned their lesson, and so does Mark Cuban. He goes on to say, while there is a direct correlation in many cases between Meta performance and the price of the stock, there is no direct connection between Ripple revenues and the price of their token, guys. And that's, what we've witnessed over the last few years. We've been getting all this great Ripple news, and the price of the token just moves with the rest of the market. I think, a lot of us can say that we have witnessed that, and, we'd probably go on the record and suggest that to Judge Torres if we were in her court of law. Despite those revenue numbers being published on a daily basis and the actual transaction wallets being public, business performance data is always there for those buying for investment or speculation. That isn't the case with stocks. He goes on to say, number 4, fraud is fraud for crypto or stocks. Number 5, Meta stock has one role to be a stock. I think the judge is saying that it's impossible to know why individuals buy tokens. It's obvious why institutions bought the token. Number 6, the SEC can still go after exchanges for selling tokens because they feel they regulate the exchanges. This doesn't prevent that at all. So that's why I think we saw the SEC pivoting and going after Coinbase and Binance US and Kraken and a bunch of others. Of course, there's a lot of gray in this ruling, but the SEC could have gone the route of Japan and set rules to protect investors. Instead, they chose to always litigate and regulate. So maybe that is part of their downfall there. Think about that approach from the perspective of a small investor or small entrepreneur looking to start a crypto company. The SEC expects both to hire securities attorneys to provide guidance. I know we call them to ask them what to do for a company I'm involved with. Every major crypto company, Coinbase, everybody, has done just that, and they all came to different conclusions than the SEC. The only reasonable conclusion is that the current mission of the SEC is not to protect small investors. It never has been. See the billions of shares trading on bankrupt companies like BBY and in crazy pink sheets and OTC companies, okay? So Mark Cuban just calling it like it is, giving examples too of why the SEC is not doing what they say they're doing. Their goal is to litigate and litigate more and litigate more. All this could go away if Congress or the SEC set bright line rules, and that is the takeaway here. Even Corey Johnson, how many of you guys remember him? Used to work at Ripple for a minute back in, 2019? Seems to me the judge adopted the very modern notion that a security is just a thing that goes up and down in price. In 2023, the popular idea of a security is divorced from the underlying asset, the company, the orange grove, the crypto technology. These aren't things once there is a trade. Securities are just prices, wiggly lines on a screen. There is no thought of a dividend. It can trade at 10x earnings or 100x earnings. It can have no earnings at all. Lousy business journalism has taught a generation to buy, sell, with no expectation of participating in the successes or failures of an underlying business. A security, like age, is just a number. Now this judge has codified that notion. An interesting comment there from Corey Johnson, guys, and Mark Cuban. Wanted to thank Pompous Maxi for posting that, John Deaton, of course. And so I hope we're getting a clearer picture on what's going to happen. You know, this verdict is just one in many. Congress has to do their job. I'm happy XRP has clarity, and I'm pretty positive you guys are too. Now we just have to wait for the market to move. And yes, we might see some FUD in the meantime. We might see prices go lower. But guys, it's all going to be temporary. That's just my opinion. But I want to hear what you guys think. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you like the content I'm providing. I always love hearing your comments. See you in the next one, guys.